President Donald Trump has now completed 60 days since opening war on Iran. According to the US Constitution, it is being said that after 60 days he cannot continue the war by his own authority. They call it 60 days. The 60-day mark, which is the issue of the 60 days that is now being debated. The time limit for President Trump to continue the Iran war on his own authority has expired, and US senators are increasingly saying our money has been spent on this war. Isn't it enough? Now, we will carefully look at the date on which President Trump notified Congress about the Iran war. Trump's war has put American politics under tension. In fact, it has reached a point where people are asking whether he is governing the country, because his daily focus and speeches have become only about Iran and nothing else. The US and global economy were now focused on what is happening in the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, American politicians are counting the days and saying, Trump, the 60 days are up. The whistle has been blown. It is over. Tonight's signal, Trump versus Congress powers. This 60-day number is not just a simple number. It is a very critical one. It is a decisive deadline that determines whether the Iran war will continue or stop. The 60 days issue is tied to a rule in the US that requires the president to obtain approval from Congress, the ultimate authority, before conducting a foreign war. This process is called congressional authorization. As is known, when President Donald Trump entered the Iran war, there was no situation where he obtained approval from Congress. Instead of seeking approval, Trump chose to notify them. He chose this approach because there is a legal loophole. A law is not simply do or don't. It contains spaces, briefing room or gaps. Politicians and legal experts understand these gaps well, and they try to maneuver within them. President Trump entered war without Congress by using this loophole. In 1973, the US Congress passed a law after America paid a heavy price in the Vietnam War. This law is known as the War Powers Resolution. The law clearly states that the president can enter war and deploy US forces by simply notifying Congress in specific urgent situations. One is when the US is attacked by a foreign force and needs to defend itself. Another is when there is a clear and immediate national threat. In such situations, to avoid delay and protect the country, the president can act quickly and then notify the Congress. However, this authority lasts only for 60 days from the day of president notifying Congress. After that, the president's time to continue the war expires. If he wants to continue, he must return to Congress and obtain approval through a vote. This is the essence of the War Powers Resolution. In short, the law means the president does not have the power to continue a war indefinitely without Congress. Congress, the highest authority, must give approval. According to the US Constitution, only Congress has the full power to declare war. As mentioned earlier, the president can act quickly only in two urgent situations: when the US is attacked or when there is a clear and immediate threat. But even then, he must notify Congress within hours. President Donald Trump used this loophole to start the war with Iran without Congress declaring it. Open the war when notify Congress, but you cannot continue it beyond 60 days without approval. As stated before, the president can act without Congress only if the US is attacked or there is a rare immediate threat. When Trump entered the Iran conflict, it was not because the US had been attacked. Instead, about 2 months ago, when announcing the war, Trump told the American people that there was a clear national threat. He described it as an imminent threat. And to support that claim, let us listen to him. Time: United States, Iran fight the American. In the recent debate that took place in Congress, one member of the House even argued strongly, saying, "You just quietly slip into war." In the current situation, Iran does not pose an imminent threat to America. This was said directly confronting the Secretary of Defense or War Minister. The issue of the 60 days begins to arise from here. By the way, although procedures differ from country to country, matters related to war are not something left entirely to leaders alone. In many countries, the declaration of war is not just an ordinary law. It is a constitutional. It is not something described solely by leaders. Whether it is discussed and deliberated in each country's parliament, and a decision is made there. The idea that parliament must approve or authorize war matters has been included in many countries' constitutions because leaders at times drag their nations into unnecessary war, causing heavy national losses. Laws are created after problems arise in order to find solutions or set proper limits, and this pattern is seen in many countries. Based on this calculating the date, Trump's authority to continue the war is set to expire in March 2026, and some people say Trump's time is up. On the other hand, there are those who argue, right now, we are not even at war, so why are you talking about the 60-day deadline? These are supporters of President Donald Trump. They count the days from the moment Trump notified Congress until the day of ceasefire was declared. Since the war stopped on 39th day, these people calculate based on that and argue that if Trump wants to continue the war, he still has additional days remaining. Others also argue that law gives the president an extra 30 days if he says, I have unfinished work, and they suggest people should examine the law more closely. A member of Congress raised this issue in yesterday's questioning. Let us listen. The Trump administration has presented an agreement since a ceasefire was reached on the 39th day after the war began. The war did not reach 60 days and effectively stopped there. Therefore, since the US is not currently at war, they argue that talking about the 60-day expiration is not applicable. This statement was made by the Secretary of Defense, Peter Hegseth, who appeared before Congress recently to explain the war. However, the Congress member who asked the question was not satisfied with his response. As you followed, they responded, I don't think this reflects the spirit of the law. This is where it is said that politicians use legal loopholes like smooth conduct to maneuver its way. At the same time, to prove that the United States truly upholds the rule of law, many are saying that this 60-day war powers issue must at least be brought before Congress and debated seriously. The media in particular are closely following this matter. Legal experts are increasingly saying that President Trump has already completed the 60 days. According to these legal opinions, under the US Constitution, President Donald Trump must seek Congress approval for the war against Iran. Otherwise, he is required to stop the war he started 2 months ago. It is also being reported that President Donald Trump has called his legal advisors and is discussing a possible next major strike on Iran. Beyond legal experts, military leaders have also been asked to provide their opinions on the potential military action. The American news source Axios has reported that the US military commanders are preparing to present Donald Trump with plans for short, powerful, consecutive strikes inside Iran. It is known that Iran, in the previous conflict, did not easily surrender even when US forces tried to pressure it by targeting the Strait of Hormuz. This has influenced Trump's interest in possibly launching another new war. Now, the decisive debate in Congress will begin. What Republican Party members who belong to President Donald Trump's party will say is critical. The key question is whether their loyalty is to President Trump or their party, or to the rule of law and constitutional principles. Moreover, each passing day, the Iran conflict continues to test not only the United States and Iran, but the entire world. This goes beyond just the controversial 60-day issue. The use of pressure between rivals as a tool is significantly affecting global oil prices. It has happened. A type of oil called Brent, which before the war was in the $70 per barrel, has now reached $126. Although it is said that the war has stopped under a ceasefire agreement, the fact that it has not been concluded with a firm agreement has made its negative economic impact much worse. Peace be upon you. Thank you for watching. See you next time in my next geopolitics update. Bye.